Hi, I'm Steve Brock, City Manager and a part of the Emergency Operations Center for the City of Farmington Hills. Today, all across the country, cities and towns, large and small, are preparing for natural and man-made disasters, and Farmington Hills is no exception. We, as the City of Farmington Hills employees, including all the city's departments, divisions, and public safety personnel, have made a commitment to be the very best prepared for natural disasters, accidents, and yes, even acts of terrorism in our community. It is a commitment that we take very seriously. Through numerous training exercises conducted annually by our public safety personnel, continue to be some of the most prepared first responders in the country. The video program you are about to view is a training exercise that was planned, coordinated, and implemented by the City of Farmington Hills Fire Department in August of 2005. What makes this training event even more unique is that it was the largest public safety training exercise ever conducted in the state of Michigan. It was a combined effort of over 650 personnel and over 45 different public and private agencies converging right here in Farmington Hills. I can assure you this, the event encompassed many of our city departments, was a true test of our first responders, our emergency operations plan, and furthered our relationship regionally with other public safety responders. We have also made a commitment to our residents by establishing our Citizens Core Council for Emergency Preparedness, or CCCEP. Recently, the council was presented by the state of Michigan the U.S. Homeland Defense Council of the Year Award for 2005, top honors for their dedication and commitment in preparedness activities for our community. And I would like to thank their chairman, Michael Sweeney, and all the committee members for their dedicated work. Again, our training and awareness programs for all city employees concerning any type of disaster or accident are a high priority. It is a commitment we have made to make Farmington Hills a safer place to live, visit, and do business. I would like to thank all of the outside agencies and businesses that supported this training event. Without their contributions, we couldn't have conducted this exercise. I'm also very proud of our men and women who have participated in this event and the first responders that make such great sacrifices every day for our safety.
From this exercise, there's one thing that I think that really stands out and that was very beneficial for the community, and that's to be able to pull all disciplines together and work together and function efficiently together.
Everybody that was involved, just seeing that many people located on the scene of an emergency and functioning together as best they possibly could, I think it's something you don't see on a regular basis.
I think that the interfacing with all of the other agencies and that multitude of agencies that responded here was something a little bit different.
Farmington Area Resource Management Exercise 2, or also known as Farmex, is a regional exercise hosted and developed by the City of Farmington Hills. This full-scale exercise was the last exercise of a comprehensive program. Exercises are a useful tool for cities to use in the testing of the response and capabilities to a disaster. A full-scale exercise is intended to place first responders in realistic scenarios in order to evaluate training, plans, and policies. This video has been designed to give you an overview of the processes, some of the lessons learned, and a recap on the events of the day. Farmex Ii was intended to test the community response to a terrorist bombing event. The word community is broad and includes the City of Farmington Hills, surrounding municipalities, Oakland County, and communities throughout the state. A total of over 40 governmental agencies were represented during the exercise.
I'd been involved with the planning, I'd been involved with the setup of the site, and yet when I turned the corner and I actually saw the smoke coming off the fires and I saw the actual scene laid out, that felt very real.
Stop breathing! The man over there lost his leg!
Right here. Dick, we're going to help them. Press right of this car right here. I don't want to go close to the building right now, okay? You made a stand climb to 2.5 right now from the back of the truck.
10 mile command, be advised, we do have numerous victims inside and outside the building.
10-4, making your location.
Let's add Steve do a 360. All right, let's get that going.
Brett, you got a spanner on you? Hey, get your crew together once we get back. I want to make you We're coming together right now. Like that. You tag out. Or no.
We located the fire. I'm diverting personnel to extinguish it. We have nobody left for rescue. We have one location.
I copy, you found the fire. You're going to put yourself between the fire and the victims. Copy, I'll send you additional resources as soon as I get them.
Can you get up? Can you walk?
For Oakland West Talk Group.
The scenario was based on an explosion as a result of a terrorist bombing, a bomb that was inside a vehicle that went up to the DeGrand Hotel. At that point, it exploded and knocked down 3 stories of the building.
Farmex took place at a combination 5- and 3-story hotel. The hotel was donated to the city for training by the Suburban Auto Group before demolition. The exercise started in the afternoon and extended till 5 a.m. the next day. One goal of the exercise team was to provide a realistic event which felt and sounded similar to a real incident. Just prior to the start of the exercise, the scene was set. Over 100 volunteer victims and actors were set and given specific acting instructions. 7 smoke machines and 30 smoke grenades were used in setting a visual effect for fires.
There were several extensive and technical aspects of this particular scene. There were fires, multiple casualty, many patients to be cared for in varying degrees of injury, as well as a collapsed building.
First responders encountered what we could do as close as possible to real life, and that was chaos. There were victims, people that donated their time to come here and help out, that came out running and screaming. When that happens, it distracts our first responders because they can't do their job as people are coming out and approaching them. It takes a little bit of time to be able to work through something like that.
It looked like they had some pretty good scene management and control of the scene. I was impressed with that. Command post established, and there were people directed away from any danger zones, which was pretty important.
With this situation, we had smoked up all the floors inside the hotel, and firefighters, they had to use all their equipment just as if it were a real fire. There were simulated fires up on the floors, so they had to be breathing off their air packs the entire time. They had to have on their heavy turnout gear, and to climb up through the smoky stairwells, get down, search the floors, put out the fires, that all takes time. I would say that probably that was one of the larger obstacles, is just the fatigue and being able to get to people in a timely fashion.
Medic 5 from command.
Go back up. Go back up. And also for fire attack. I have low fire attack. And all personnel are going to gauge stairwell. In the parking lot.
You got one, Doug?
Nope. Doug, Engine 4, hold it right there.
Got a victim. Hey, right here. I don't know where the stairwell is.
We're very fortunate to have a couple of our members of our department, specifically our Deputy Chiefs Corey Barsh and Kevin Bershey and Lieutenant Mike O'Brien, who put a lot of time and energy into the planning process and had to script it out considerably and make sure that all of the departments were participating, not only inside Farmington Hills, but also all the mutual aid companies that were called.
The exercise was developed by our local exercise planning team. The team played a critical role in evaluating the needed goals and objectives, as well as the scope and safety of all participants. The planning team developed materials, recruited volunteers, donors, and coordinated the response. This coordination included traditional responders such as police and fire departments, as well as Department of Public Works, Central Services, Department of Special Services, and the Citizens Corps Council. These additional agencies provided critical insight and assistance during the event, as well as the planning of the exercise.
We spent a lot of time with the fire department trying to determine what our various roles were going to be. The fire department had a major portion of this exercise, and ours was essentially a supplementary and security role. We spent time trying to determine what our forces were going to do on the initial response, and then as we carried the police response out through the night, what our role would shift to.
Before it was to occur, a tremendous amount of planning needed to take place so that it became organized, efficient, and most of all safe for everyone that was involved.
Certainly there was a number of meetings we had just to talk about, Farmex Ii and how things were progressing up to the date that the exercise was taking place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then could we get up on that floor, if that wall now is some weight on there, and get something around it?
Work that way, they can come up, but they just stay away from that. You would keep all the load on this other wall then. So.
1 week prior to the start of the exercise, a portion of the building was demolished in order to test the response to a structural collapse incident. The hotel was made of precast construction as well as concrete block with some steel. Prior to the exercise, the building was evaluated by structural engineers to ensure adequate safety during the exercise. Michigan Urban Search and Rescue, also known as MUSAR, aided in the setup of the scene and provided critical support in the portion of the collapsed building. The exercise planning team was responsible for not only setting the scene, but ensuring that all agencies were reviewing and planning for their roles in the exercise.
Very realistic. We try to practice a couple of times a year in a collapsed building. This certainly was a live collapse, which presented all of the challenges and hazards that would be at a real collapse, and that certainly benefits our response to a real one.
Squad 1, we have identified 3 victims, so just off the rubble pile, up a little bit higher in the second.
Response to collapsed buildings requires special equipment and trained personnel. The City of Farmington Hills relies on Oakland County response teams as well as MUSAR. These specialized teams provide the critical response that is needed in these technical incidents. Farmex Ii had many objectives on evaluating the coordination of resources between a local, regional, state, and federal agencies. In order to test these agencies, a realistic scene must be set.
Okay, we want to get in this. Greater than 5 victims. For sure. Got the medical team coming right over, guys.
We got how many? What is the estimated time of departure?
Just the people, make sure that they show up here to try to check in.
Well, we have certain bits of technology that seem to come into our service on a regular basis. These things sometimes are not quite as obvious to people outside the service, but we see it might be improvements in our self-contained breathing apparatus, or it might be improvements in some of our EMS equipment that might be helpful, radio technology, which is always changing and is good, thermal imaging cameras that help you locate victims. All of these types of things are added in. And again, you don't always get to use these sorts of things because you don't always have a large-scale multi-casualty incident with fire, explosives, the whole thing. So you get a chance to use a lot of your newer equipment and see how it functions, and make sure that your personnel have been trained appropriately and they can use them to the best of their advantage.
Fire department! Anybody in here?
All units operating 10 mile. Hold your set. Fire, we have fire on all levels of this structure at this time. Send them over to the command post.
John, my suggestion is put Mike on that monitoring right away. Get us the monitors.
Right, can you monitor that side for me?
Okay.
It would be nice you could raise it down and get some kind of a... you guys need rehab? Yeah, that would be nice. Go ahead. Rehab is all the way back.
When you see people having to assist other people, 150, 190, 250 pounds, it doesn't matter how much they weigh, it takes multiple firefighters just to get one person out. That includes equipment that they may use. Maybe they're going to use a blanket, maybe they're going to use 2 firefighters to carry them out. But staffing is a concern, and along with staffing, you need to program into the scenario or into the real-life incident, rotating those people out. They're obviously going to need some rest and rehab after carrying multiple patients or multiple, hopefully not, injured firefighters and other EMS personnel out of that building.
It takes a lot of people to be able to get inside each floor, to be able to search each floor, to be able to stretch hose line, to be able to treat victims, to be able to set up a functional incident command system. That all takes a lot of people to be able to do that.
I have 1 crew entering the stairwell at this time. I could use an additional 4 crews. I copy, do not charge your 2.5. You have found fire on 2. Building, make lobby to take over fire branch. Command from fire branch.
Fire department!
Additional resources, I need mutual aid from the city of Novi and Livonia at this time.
It's unique in my experience, with very few exceptions, and so to work that closely with public safety personnel was helped develop our skills, not only mine, but the Division of Public Works skills.
Specialized teams were critical to the exercise. The major teams used include MUSAR and Oakland County for structural collapse response, FBI and ATF for response to a terrorism event and explosion, Western Wayne Hazardous Incident Response Team, along with Oakland County for response to hazardous materials. These specialized teams provide the technical knowledge, skills, and equipment that is necessary for these types of incidents. I believe what went best within the exercise was the fact that we had so many different agencies, so many different personnel that were trained differently, of course, to the same standards, but acquired different equipment, different training, and all these people were able to come together and were able to operate safely and mitigate the exercise.
Where do people go? How do they get called? Who provides for food, water, logistical transportation to get people who are not injured off-site to a safe location, and then doing all of those kinds of things. That involves our Department of Special Services, our Public Services, our Park and Rec Department, as well as our police and fire responders.
Human Services was responsible for providing tents, tables, chairs, gaiters, all kinds of things to ensure an efficient and safe event.
Providing the support to those personnel that it's needed and to coordinate the interdepartmental logistics that have to go on, because it is really important for all the departments to come together in an exercise like this, and the city manager's office can help quite a bit.
Fire and police departments are experts in responding to and managing emergency incidents. Although large-scale incidents and exercises have proven that other entities such as private security, Department of Public Works, city management, healthcare, and the like are critical to a complete emergency management package at a community level. These non-traditional emergency responders have critical contacts, knowledge, and skill that can be utilized in the planning and responding to emergencies.
Both suspects were 35 years old. They were speaking.
What's your date of birth? You guys okay? Medic 5, command.
Well, it's good to learn from books, and it's good to learn from classrooms, and videotapes are most excellent. But there's nothing like being on the ground, surrounded by the incident itself. The smell of the smoke, the heat of the fire, the people screaming, it adds an adrenaline rush to you that makes the training much more realistic, makes it better for the participants.
All responders and participants of this exercise learned many lessons, some of which included the need for a regional response to structural collapse incidents, the ability to talk with other first responders on various communication methods, requesting senior command staff as well as other first responders early in an incident, and the need for a regional or statewide mutual aid plan.
Well, it shows you what you don't really know. I think that we found out that some of the things that we had trained on, that we believed that we had well in hand as far as practice and our ability to perform, it showed us that we still have weaknesses there, and that we need to continue to readdress those areas in the training process.
Also, it enables us to test our plans. It's very easy to talk about plans, but until you put them to the test like this, you really don't know on how well that they're going to work. This was a great opportunity to be able to do that. We found some areas where we can improve on and some areas that went excellent, and that's the purpose of these exercises.
There's no such thing as too much training. With an incident like this, we don't see multiple casualty, mass casualty on this level. We don't see building collapse. Rarely do we ever operate in big buildings, whether it's rescue, whether it's fire extinguishment. We don't see those type of incidents. And what we see now in the department is those are things that probably are a low occurrence, but we need to train to, because those low occurrence things that we don't train to all the time are the things that can kill and injure firefighters.
Any and all training and exercises that we can do is going to provide benefits to the agency and to our organization. We learn something every single time, no matter how many times we practice. There's always something that we learn. And the more practice that you can have allows you to be more prepared for the future.
All local exercises must include an after-action report. These reports are transmitted to the state and are used to develop needs during the following grant periods, as well as developing goals and objectives for the Emergency Management Division. If local exercises indicate a specific need for training, the state will evaluate that need. The state may also provide this training to enhance Michigan's preparedness to disasters.
Division C, Charlie, or Division 3, the number.
Triage, be advised, we have one patient on the A side of the building that seems to have some sort of powdery substance on his body.
Broadcasting to all fire department units. Be aware that this is an explosive device. We may have a secondary and explosion device here. Keep your eyes open. Additional, I need a call from Western Wayne, full team response.
We're gonna make our way down there right now.
One of the things that we're talking about in Farmington Hills getting up and running rather quickly would be a low power radio station, so that if the electricity were out, and we had a real life case of that incident in August of 2003, how would people get information if they had no electricity, if they couldn't turn on a radio or a television set without battery power, if the phones went down, if the phones were commandeered for emergency personnel use, if there was a major outage of those kinds of infrastructure, how would people get their information? We would like to see a low power radio station developed that could be broadcast on, the EOC could take it over and broadcast information.
The dissemination of information is critical during times of crisis. Farmex Ii tested the flow of public information and evaluated how information would be passed on to other first responders as well as the general public. Information released to the public and outside first responders must be timely, factual, and pertinent to the incident.
That's a challenging question, and I think that there are many different answers to that. The city continues to look at new technology to do that. Currently, we would ask residents to tune to their local cable channel and to listen to the local radio networks as well. And then in the future, we very well may find that we can apply some new technologies, whether specified radio channels or even some technologies like the reverse 911 system, where we can call many, many different phone numbers with a computerized message giving people information. As long as the phone network is operational, that may be an opportunity as well.
The local news stations would be the first. We'd also put something out on our website, and we'd normally have it on the Channel 8 network. So if the public tunes into the media they're most accustomed to listen to, that's where they're going to hear it first.
They can go in here and do the work they need to do.
And what looks like a terrorist attack in Farmington Hills, but it's not. Hello, I'm Terry Arbanowski, the Public Information Officer for the City of Farmington Hills.
Fire, go ahead for command. Okay.
Command, command post at the battalion vehicle.
It gives you a good idea of what to expect in a large-scale incident, whether it was this type of possible terrorist event or if it were some type of natural disaster. General day-to-day operations of most fire departments do not include this large of a scale, but the potential exists, whether it's a natural disaster caused by weather or something else that might be a fluke or an intentional event. We hope that it never happens, but it also gives you the opportunity to practice some of your individual skills. A lot of the members of our organization got a chance to do things they don't normally do on a regular basis with respect to even firefighting and rescue situations. We also had an opportunity to exercise some of our mutual aid agreements and work with some of our surrounding communities.
I certainly applaud, the fire department and some of my people that were involved in this operation, because it was the best. I've never seen an operation of this magnitude, this scale, involving so many people go so well. And I think it was a great learning experience for everyone, including an old-timer like myself.
I believe the number of people that we put on the site was something like 650, plus or minus a few. And many, many agencies, 40 plus agencies, I would guess, something like that. That kind of an opportunity does not come along very often at all. And I believe not only we, but many of the agencies that were involved there saw the benefit of having to apply their particular expertise to that type of an event. Became invaluable. I mean, you can't replicate that kind of a thing. And in addition, I think that what it demonstrated more poignantly than any meeting format could is the need for cooperation among those agencies.
Medic 5, proceed up industrial, start EMS section for me. Engine 1. got 30 over there supervising that end, all right?
Well, I think everybody learns a little bit, and they're going to put in their memory banks, and it's part of our programming, but we certainly are going to look at some things as far as training, things that we need to do to become more repetitive in some of our basic concepts so that people can perform their functions more efficiently and more effectively. We're going to look at some of our command structure and make sure that we've done all the necessary things inside the incident command system. And on a more global perspective, we're going to start talking with some of our neighboring fire departments in both Wayne and Oakland County, and hopefully establish a little smoother transition in our mutual aid requests.
Once you actually get knee-deep in the situation, it gives us a great opportunity to review what our plans were, how we thought things would work out. Ultimately, for us, we were able to change some things around so that should this happen for real, I think we'll be much more efficient. It helped us recognize some areas where we were right on, where our strengths were, but certainly some areas for improvement.
We are routinely updating our resource manual. We are routinely going through our EOC procedures. We are routinely addressing communications issues that may affect long-term the EOC. So we are constantly updating our materials, constantly updating our documents, and preparing.
Not in a fundamental way. I think more exercises, more practice, more skill development, and perhaps more interaction between public services and public safety.
Once we have gotten all the after-action reports from the associated committees and controllers that were there from the other agencies, we will take that, cull the information that they gave us, and once that's completed, then we will be able to probably adjust our procedures and our standard operating guides to help us out in the future with incidents such as this.
Because of this exercise, we're able to point out to ourselves within the city and some areas that we can improve on and some areas that we did very well. There's always room for improvement, and that's what this exercise enabled us to do.
Third, east side fire with victims.
Dave, I need you to start writing down what trucks I have because we need to start tracking, all right?
Before exiting the building, or immediately exiting the building, gross decon.
No smoke here.
Well, if you have a large scene and you have a large event, what you're trying to do is break it down into bite-sized chunks, if you will. So what you're trying to do is analyze it in such a way that you can sector it off into segments that you're able to handle with the resources that you have.
The management of our human resources was critical. Large-scale incidents requires a strategic and coordinated response. Farmex Ii used a large number of first responders, which challenged our incident commander and their assigned staff. The ability to manage multiple crews on multiple floors with varying responsibilities became a critical function on this incident. Incidents of this magnitude require supervisors and leaders who are able to manage these resources.
The first thing we have to do is make sure that the building is stabilized and safe. That adds safety to the victims that are trapped in there and also provides safety for the rescuers who are going to enter in there to remove the victims that are trapped. So sometimes that seems like a long-term process, and it seems you should just be getting in there and pulling people out. That usually creates more problems than it solves.
The incident priorities that have been drummed into our firefighters' lexicon is life safety, incident stabilization, and property conservation. Whether it's a small incident or a large incident, the firefighters' life safety comes first. Safety becomes the backdrop of all the decision-making processes that happen over the course of an incident. Once you can ensure to some degree that you can operate safely within an action zone, then you can move on to the second component of life safety, and that is how do we take care of the people that have been injured on that scene?
In a true emergency, you have to react very, very quickly. And so you're going to process things based upon your previous experiences, your training, your education, your policies and procedures. And so what you're going to do is look at the incident, break it down into little tiny pieces that you can handle, assign your personnel, and do the best you can.
Fires over here. I've got people in the building here. I'm going to put 2.5 to the standpipe. Bring the bundle in. Okay.
Chesky.
Just the first name of everybody on your team.
Now, fire brand. Now, fire brand, operating off.
Yeah, let's put a 2.5 in here with a standpoint, okay? No standpoint.
Just 2.5.
I've got inch of 5 just laid in, the 5-inch or the 4-inch, a little too short. Okay. I've got 44 up here. That's where I'm at right now.
These kinds of exercises not only help serve to provide an exercise in how jurisdictions respond and communicate together, but also allow us to practice those things that are not routine so that they become second nature to us, so that they're one less thing that we have to worry about in case of a major large-scale emergency.
We are always evaluating our plans and policies to be able to respond to all types of emergencies effectively. This incident played out as a terrorist event. The skills and lessons learned are carried over into natural disasters and other emergencies. Exercises, training, and community planning are critical to ensure an adequate response by the city to the community needs. We are always evaluating plans, policies, and procedures to ensure we meet or exceed the citizens' needs during a state of emergency.
We want to be prepared for any types of emergencies that may occur, and our willingness to do an exercise such as this, I think, is a key indication of our desire to be the best we possibly can for any type of emergency. So hopefully this sends a signal that we're serious about what we do and we want to be prepared to the best of our ability.
It's a hallmark, I think, of our department that our officers are trained in various aspects of the discipline, and firearms and first aid and critical incident response and rapid deployment. We put a high premium and we spend resources on training. And that value accrues to the residents of Farmington Hills, to the members of the community.
We want our citizens to know that we are looking at the global picture. We examine and study not only exercise events, but also the very real events that occur around the world, acts of terrorism, etc., and try to learn lessons from them. This particular opportunity gave us the ability to test all of the elements that we thought we had in place, see what works, see what we need to improve upon. And that's our commitment to them, that we are continuing to look at those things and that we'll continue to work on our areas of weakness in order to improve.
From this exercise, I'm very confident that the human services aspect of a disaster, a full-scale, real disaster, should it affect our community. I'm confident in our ability to take care of things, basic necessities for victims, food, water, shelter, reunifying with loved ones, transporting them wherever they need. I think we learned a lot from this exercise and stand prepared should it ever happen in Farmington Hills.
Well, we're going to step up our training to the lay public. What we try to stress is that during the first 72 hours of an incident, the citizenry should be prepared to take care of themselves. That frees up the public safety officers to come and respond to an incident like this. They need their full strength here, which means we have to be ready to take care of ourselves to free them up for that.
All three units report to A side of the building.
Safety copies. Floor has not been cleared by FD. Safety copies.
I think that exercises like this are really important, not just to train our responders, but to train all of us in what is necessary to handle a large-scale emergency.
Full-scale exercises require a community to dedicate resources to the planning and execution of the event. The community must also have an open mind to review and change any deficiencies noted during the exercise. Farmex Ii utilized over 12 evaluators to review and critique the response from first responders, the EOC, and the exercise itself. These recommended changes were compiled and an after-action report was completed. This after-action report was distributed throughout the city and forwarded to the State Emergency Management Division.
This is a perfect example of if something did happen as far as some sort of a bombing, the coordination that you would have between all of the principals, I mean the fire department, the police department, the state, the federal, I mean it all comes together.
The residents can be assured that we're constantly preparing for any disaster. We meet on a monthly basis as part of the planning team to be prepared for any disaster event, and so although no disaster will be a perfect scenario, we are as prepared as we possibly can be for any disaster.
I learned a great deal from it. I think the DPW staff learned a great deal from it. I endorse the whole concept and hope we have the opportunity to do more of it.
Thanks to our city staff. The city manager's office provided some tremendous support and gave us the opportunity and the latitude to be able to do this.
Did a real good job of putting this program together, and it was probably the most organized and well-executed exercise that we've been involved with.
The team approach, everybody, all the departments and even the other agencies that we had in the exercise all had to work together to make this a successful training exercise.
The money that we're able to gain through grants to conduct this kind of exercise is very well spent, and I am confident that the public is very well served. I'm certainly proud of all of our staff that came together in this event, and I know the City of Farmington Hills is well served by it.
The Michigan State Police would like to thank the communities that participated in Farmex Ii. The residents of the City of Farmington Hills should be honored that this comprehensive program was conducted by their emergency management staff. This is one example of the many exercises that occur in a given year in the state of Michigan. Exercises are critical in the development of response plans and evaluating services for any given community. We encourage all citizens to be prepared and for communities to practice their emergency operations plans. If citizens need additional information on emergency management or preparedness, please go to these websites.
We would like to thank all of the participants in Farmex Ii. This includes all the staff involved in the planning, execution, and review of the exercise. A special thanks to all of the volunteers who participated as actors, victims, or provided assistance during the exercise. The City of Farmington Hills would like to thank the community for their assistance and support during the event. This includes the businesses which may have been displaced during the event or who provided valuable donations to the exercise. Finally, we would like to thank the Michigan State Police Emergency Management Division, who gave the city support and guidance during the planning and execution of the exercise. To all who were involved, I cannot thank you enough for your support. Because of this exercise, lessons have been learned, plans have been updated, and many agencies are now more prepared than they were prior to the exercise. That was our goal all along, to make the City of Farmington Hills, Oakland County, and the state of Michigan more prepared for all types of disasters and to ensure we can respond to meet our citizens and communities' needs.